Most people think that discipline is about being tough and having this superhuman ability to suffer more than everybody else. You probably think of David Goggins or something, right? But that is not discipline. None of that matters to achieve your goals. I want to give you my framework to achieving true discipline in your business and life so that you can achieve your goals without the hustle, the grit, or even the willpower. And as a bit of proof, I'm a former US Marine with 6 years of military experience. I became a full time entrepreneur helping people build mission driven online businesses. I helped a busy nurse and single mother of 3 kids land her own first client in 4 weeks, helped a former Border Patrol agent launch her own offer after years of being stuck and overwhelmed. And I helped dozens of other creators and entrepreneurs save time, build discipline, and be consistent on their own goals. And I want to be able to share with you these frameworks that I've been able to help them with. And it's called the MRE framework. And if you are coming from the military or have any knowledge of what an MRE is, by the way, it's a meal ready to eat. It's not a meal ready to eat like this framework, but it was inspired by it because you know me being a Marine and all that. But it's it breaks it down to three core principles: the mission, the routine, and the environment. So I'm going to break that down with you and what that actually looks like for discipline. So for mission, I find this to be the backbone of everything that is important for your life. Being able to have a mission that you believe in will propel you to take action. So if you don't have a mission in your life, if you don't have a purpose or something that fulfills you, it's going to be easy to fall into the trap of cheap dopamine, to instant gratification, to just trying to live life and exist and not actually have a thriving, meaningful life. So the mission is truly the backbone. So we want to be able to have a direction to go. This is our mission. Our mission propels us in a sort of direction. And like I said, if you don't have a destination, if you don't have a mission, you're going to wander aimlessly in life. So we want to break down our mission if we want to be able to develop a mission for ourselves into core components: the identity, the purpose, and the goals. So we're going to start with identity. Your identity is basically who you are and who you want to become. And if you want discipline, you need to first change how you see yourself, what your thought patterns are, what your beliefs are about yourself. So if you're operating with faulty thought patterns and false beliefs about yourself, like what the world says you are, or what your friends say about you behind closed doors or behind your back, or what your parents said about you 5 years ago when you did some bonehead things, right? If they labeled you with a certain identity, like you're a loser, you're a piece of crap, you're worthless. If these things are bombarding in your head, then you're going to take on that identity and those beliefs, even though they're false, and you're going to see yourself as someone who's just not capable, that's worthless in this world. And these are faulty thought patterns that's going to shape our identity if we choose to believe them. But you need to believe that you are someone of value, that you are capable of great things, that you're capable of being disciplined. And it's so important to tell yourself like who you really are and not what the world tells you, not the mistakes you made. It's not about the things that you've done in the past or what you even do in the future. It's just who you really are inside. So we need to create I am statements that truly lift you up rather than tear you down. So, for examples, for me, I grew up like with a lot of negative thought patterns in my life. I didn't necessarily grow up with depression per se, but I did have depressive behaviors. And then into adulthood, I did have a little bit of depression myself, not clinically diagnosed or anything, but I definitely had very low moments in my life, especially in my adulthood. But it wasn't just because of something that just randomly happened. It built up for years and years from childhood. You could probably consider this trauma or things like that, that just negative childhood experiences because I've been labeled with so many things from my friends, from my family, from other things, and I'm not bashing my family. I love my family. They've done so great to raise me, but I still had so many things bombarding my head as a kid, and I just took on an identity that was told me I was worthless in this world, that is valueless, and that that ate at me. That totally messed up my own ability to show up for myself and for others. So I've been able to change that within the past few years of actually shaping and changing who I truly am by not believing in the words that the world has told me, that I'm not a loser, that I'm not worthless, that I'm not valueless, that I am someone valuable, that I am someone who is capable of doing great things. And that's all important. That's the most important thing is your identity, who you say you are, who you truly are, and who you want to become. So we need to start with renewing our mind. And there is something in the scripture is about conformity, and it's about don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? And I'm a Christian. I have full beliefs in the Bible and Jesus Christ and all that, and I take on that identity as well. And I feel like I know I'm a child of God. The I am a child of His. So it's very important to have these positive identities about ourselves and creating these I am statements that are grounded in truth because we are valuable as human beings. Even if you don't feel like it, even if you feel like you're not valuable in the marketplace, you're not valuable in your job, people tell you that. That's not who you are, right? Don't let them tell you who you are. Let yourself tell you who you are and ground it in truth rather than the lies and the deceits of this world. So that's important. The other thing is purpose, right? If we're talking about mission, we need to have some purpose aligned with it. So this is something that you feel called to do, or what your gifts are in the world, and what intrinsic motivators you have. So this can be a little bit tricky for a lot of people to find their purpose, which admittedly, but for me, how I found purpose in my life is looking at my past pains and problems and things that I've gone through that I needed to overcome in my life, right? So for me, I was battling with addiction to video games, pornography, anything that had to do with being on a screen, being online, the internet, things like that. And now I want to be able to help people build back self discipline in their lives with becoming great entrepreneurs and leaders in their lives in and out of the workplace and removing things that are taking away from their life. And we're living in a world of instant gratification, cheap dopamine, and being on the internet and screens. And right, the internet is great and all, but there are also a lot of huge negative things when it comes to the internet or being online or on the screens. We see it everywhere. Attention is such an insane resource that we're just giving away. Our time is also valuable too. So we're giving up so much of our time and so much of our attention to these devices and not contributing it to meaningful pursuits. So if you're running an online business just like I am, you already know like how many distractions can bombard you online. Or if you're just someone who's browsing the internet or uh, checking social media, you know how many hours you could easily suck into it without realizing how much time has passed. So that is my purpose. So I know I went off on a tangent with my own purpose, but whatever pains or problems that you've faced in the past, whatever things that you've gone through, and you can make your pain your purpose. Even if you're going through something right now, maybe you haven't solved a certain problem in your life yet, you can allow that to try to become your purpose to solve this problem in your life so that you could help others through it. And I truly believe that if we have something that's mission driven, that's purpose driven, that, and to be able to serve people, that's going to be the highest form of fulfillment. That's going to be the highest form of living, to serve others. And there's no greater purpose than to be able to serve others, in my opinion. Um, so That's why I talk about purpose. And then the goals. Creating specific goals that are anchored by your identity and purpose. So you want to be able to break it down into 10, 5, and 1 year goals. So this is your long-term vision, right, for your purpose and your mission. What is that North Star you're looking for? What is it something that you really want to achieve in life that might be a little bit out of your reach, but something that you just have in the back of your mind that's like, I really want to be able to accomplish this in my life, to make the world a better place, to be able to solve this problem that so many people are going through. What is it? And you can create that as part of your 10, 5, and 1 year goals. So a 10-year goal, where do you want to be? Like where is it that what is your North Star? Where do you want to see yourself long term? The 5 year goals, what are your certain milestones that you're reaching to get you there? So is it a certain amount of income? Is it a certain amount of people that you've helped? Um, it can be for personal, professional goals too. Like if you're wanting to run a marathon, or if you want to be able to um, have a certain amount of kids, or be just a better father to your wife, or a better wife to your husband, things like that. What are your certain goals and milestones for your relationships, for your business, for your personal life, things like that? And then the 1 year goals, what are your non-negotiables? So the closer you are to how the closer you are to the day, to like the day-to-day stuff, the more actionable it becomes. So with the 1 year goals, you need to determine like the non-negotiables that align with the milestones, that aligns with where you want to be. So that's why we break it down into 10, 5, and 1 year goals, the long-term vision. So that's the mission. Next on the Emory framework is routine. So if you've heard of anything from Atomic Habits, you might have heard of this. You fall to the level of your systems, or like you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems, things like that, which is absolutely true. You need to have a system in place to be able to take action and have a repeatable process that is going to get you to those long-term goals and accomplish the mission that you have for yourself. So you want to have our routines set in place so that they align with our mission. So that's why we start with the mission first. So you want to be able to execute necessary things to be able to bring that mission into reality. And this is where the structure comes in. So if you've come out of military, or if you've come out of service, I most likely that you've had structure in your life. You know exactly when you wake up, you know exactly what tasks you need to do at work, things like that. But once you come out of that, once you like remove yourself from that environment and things like that, you lose that structure in your life. So we need to bring back structure in our life, knowing exactly what actions we need to take, knowing when to do them, allowing for consistent motion. And here's the thing, structure does not remove freedom in your life. If anything, it creates freedom. So if you try to have like absolute freedom, if we had to put it in quotations, if you wanted absolute freedom in your life, where you could just do whatever you want, when you want, how you want it, and just like have not like no rules and have no guardrails in your life, and you just it's basically an open world for you. How do you think you'll be able to navigate life when you have no guardrails within your life? It's going to be chaotic. If you've experienced that like I have, to not have any guardrails in my life, not have any structure, you realize how lost you can really be if you don't have those guardrails in place. The structure is the guardrail, and that helps you move in a certain direction. So like that's what we start with the mission. It allows you to have a sort of direction to grow in a certain area. So if you have no guardrails, you don't know where you're growing, if you even grow at all. So we want to be able to have a positive direction and wherever that you see fit. So here's how we can start creating a routine for our life that allows that structure for every other area of our life, whether it be professional, personal, mental, physical, spiritual, relational, things like that. So we want to reflect on our goals and identify the problems that you need to solve to get there. We need to create daily habits and actions that will result you in moving closer each day. We need to write out your tasks on paper in a time block that you see fit with a checkbox next to it. And I say this specifically because writing helps us remember things. We're designed like we're blessed with the ability to write as humans. We have this unique ability, and writing helps us remember things. So we want to be able to have a time that we could allot for a certain task and write that specific task down in that time block. What this will do is this will train your mind to receive dopamine from positive sources instead of looking for the instant gratification. Once you're able to check that box off, there's a reason why to-do lists still kind of work. They like you have a checkbox, you know exactly what to do during this time frame, and you check that box. That's going to be a positive feedback loop. And if you train yourself to be able to accomplish the tasks each time, even if it's a small task that moves you closer to your goals. And I'm not talking like random tasks like putting the dishes in the dishwasher, which is fine, but like actually write some tasks down that is going to align you with the specific goals you have in mind. It's going to train your mind to receive positive dopamine from positive sources instead of looking for the instant gratification because we're living in this world where we have this cheap gratification. Like we want to be able to just seek pleasure and seek motivation and seek reward immediately. But once we do that, we realize, okay, had this peak of dopamine. Now I'm going to end up going below baseline. We have this normal where how dopamine works is it works in peaks and troughs. If you don't know how to stabilize it, we have a baseline, and if you seek dopamine from negative sources, then you're going to see a huge spike in dopamine, right? If you watch porn, if you scroll on social media, or you eat some fast foods or things like that, your dopamine is going to spike. So you're going to have that pleasurable experience. But what comes after is the crash. You're going to go below baseline. And this is why the addiction happens, right? Drugs, porn, like gambling, things like that. Like you go way below baseline once you realize you've been consuming from these dopaminergic sources that are not good for you, and your brain doesn't care what it receives dopamine from, right? So we need to be able to change how we receive dopamine. So the checkbox itself and the to-do list allows for that positive feedback loop. So that's how we can start introducing routine into our days to change our habits and change our behaviors for actual things that move the needle. Because we're not going to find ease into being able to do the hard things, but we want to make it as easy as possible to be able to do those. And this leads to the third aspect of the Emery framework or the Emery method into environment design. So we want to be able to design our environment to where it makes it easy to accomplish their goals, makes it almost inevitable, and it makes it harder to fail on those goals. So I define this in simple different categories. I separate it into physical, social, and even digital, since we're living in an online world at this point. I'm in a box right now, like I'm on your screen right now. So we have a digital environment per se. So starting with our physical environment, what are we surrounding ourselves with within our work or wherever in our office or our home space or office, whatever the case that is at or that is providing friction to your goals or from your goals or it's just a matter of friction. So I want to be able to set up my own work environment. I have this office space. It's you see like there's nothing on the walls, which it could change. I definitely add some decorations, but I want to be able to set up my environment so that it's easier to work and harder to do anything that does not work right. So if I have anything that's distracting me from my work, my environment, that could be that could be something that takes away than adding to. So it's easier to remove things than to add. I find. So if there's things that are existing in your environment right now that you can easily take away, it's probably easier to do that. Whether there might be certain objects or things like that. Maybe it's your phone, right? The phone is the easiest example to think about because if you are someone who is easily trapped in the doom scrolling cycle, maybe the trigger is the phone itself. Maybe when you feel stressed or bored or anxious, then your default is wanting to reach out to the phone and scroll. So you want to be able to make it easier of a decision to be able to work by not having that phone in plain sight. Maybe you need to put it in your drawer. Maybe you need to put it in the other room. Maybe you need to just put it in a lockbox somewhere so that you can reach out for it later on when you're trying to get some work done, right? For me, I do have my phone on me right now. I'm using it to record, and I've been able to be a lot better in not having to use my phone to scroll or things like that. That's not really my desire anymore. But back then, I made it an effort um, to put my phone away in my room, and I still kind of do that. I tend to only have my phone in my room whenever I need to record or if I expect a phone call, things like that. So there are situations where I might need to keep it, but there are also ways of making it easier to just do the work. And if the phone is the easiest distraction for you to just pull out and waste time, it might be worth considering to put it away or even putting something on your device like a screen time app like Opal. I use Opal all the time. So that's of course a digital environment that we could talk about later. But the point is to be able to have your physical environment so that it's easier to do the work, right? And then our social environment. Who are the people you're surrounding yourself with? Right? We don't think about this often, right? But who you surround yourself absolutely matters. This almost goes back to the identity aspect of what we talked about in the mission part of the framework. If you're surrounding yourself with people like negative people or pessimistic people or people who are just trying to drag you down, not supporting your goals. If you're surrounding yourself with those kind of people, then why is it going to be conducive to surround yourself with those people again, right? So we need to be very careful about the kind of friend groups we have. Maybe you've had a friend group for years and decades, and they're still acting a certain way, acting the same way. They've never changed. And if you're someone who wants to make a change in their life, you need to look at your friend group. You need to look at the people that you hang out and spend time the most with. And I'm not saying to cut out all your friend groups. I'm not saying that. But you need to be you need to start being more selective with the people you choose to surround yourself with, at least for most of the time. And understand that could be difficult. If you're surrounding yourself with family members, that could be very difficult. If you have a spouse or a relationship that constantly bickers at you, that constantly complains at you, that could be difficult. So I completely understand that. But we need to start surrounding ourselves with more positive, influential, goal driven people that align with your beliefs, that align with your values, so that you can become the kind of person capable of achieving your goals. Right? I intentionally put myself in communities. I intentionally put myself in situations where um, people people will be a positive influence in my life. And I have mentors. I have positive influences with my family. I have a great father, thank God for that. I have people in the church. I go to small groups. I always want to surround myself with great, influential, positive, goal-driven people that want to seek improvement in their lives. So the social environment so matters in this world. And who you surround yourself with is probably one of the most important decisions you make in your life. And of course, probably one of the most important decisions in your life is who you marry or who you decide to become as your significant other. Relationships like matter in this life. We can't do this life alone. We can't do this life surrounded by people who are always dragging us down, right? So we need to change our social environment and then our digital environment. We all know we're online a lot. We're spending hours on a day. We're typing on the computer. We're on our phones, things like that. On being online is inevitable if we're going to be doing anything for work, for doing anything online. You're going to be exposed to it one way or another. So we need to start creating friction on the things that are going to distract us and repel ourselves from those things. So whether it be adult sites that you know you shouldn't be going on, we need to actually start blocking those things. We need to actually add friction to that. Whether it be social media, we need to start adding friction to that. Whether it be anything time wasting, anything that's not conducive to our goals, we need to actually remove things in our digital environment, whether it be our phone or computers, because we know we're on there a lot. And what we consume matters. What we put in our heads matter. So we need to start looking at the things that we're consuming. We need to start looking at the things that we're putting into our heads and putting into our minds. Because once we have things inserted into our minds, we're going to start thinking on those things. If you sow a thought, you're going to reap an action. And then the list goes on. You sow an action, you reap a habit, and then you sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny, right? So it all starts with the thoughts and the things that we consume. That matters a lot. So we need to add friction to the things that aren't going to be conducive to our goals. And I'd imagine if you're someone who's easily tempted, who's easily falling into this trap of lust or just junk like the things that are being fed, that are being introduced in this world, we need to step away from that as much as possible. We shouldn't even have the thought of those. We shouldn't even have that introduced in our lives because that's going to affect our own discipline. That's going to affect our own the way we live our lives. What we consume matters, and creating a good digital environment so that we can focus on what truly matters is going to affect our lives, whether it be for your work or for your relationships or for your physical or mental health. It all matters what we consume. So it's all about friction in our environment so that we can understand what influences our behavior so that we can actually show up for the to become the person we want to be, right? So with that being said, that is the framework. And if you are a veteran or a first responder or someone who's interested in entrepreneurship, who's looking to become an entrepreneur so you can bring back purpose into your life, bring back control of your time so you can spend more of it on what matters to you and become a better leader in both your personal and professional life, I have a 90-day program to help walk you through implementing this system into your life. If that interests you, I invite you to click the link below to book a call with me to see how I can help and to see if it's a good fit. Otherwise, thank you for watching. If you had anything good out of this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Leave a comment about your thoughts, and I'll catch you next video. Semper Fi.